Then I have a long story. I will read the two first parts, and it's a story that I wrote for a performance in Copenhagen this summer for the World Pride. And the story is sort of it's a story about a state where abuse is normalized. So it's called Untitled Eggs, a story about the state where abuse is normalized. Part 1, School. Our dragon was yellow with red details. And just like every other school, we were very proud of it. After a year of use, the inside as well as the outside of the dragon had become quite torn, and the glass fibers in its construction were exposed. That's why we repainted it once a year, on the day before the birthday of the state. I remember how the whole school got involved, with buckets and painting rolls, with ladders to reach the highest point of the dragon's back. During our years in school, we hurried to the dragon every morning to get there before the teachers. We collected all the peculiar and fascinating things that had been left there from the previous night and took them to our hidden treasury in the white stepple bush at the edge of the schoolyard. We knew it was something mysterious with what we found, potentially dangerous. These now I lost at the edge of school. We knew it was something mysterious with what we found, potentially dangerous. These remnants from the night, and that made it exciting. Especially those small plastic bags with a semi-transparent whitish cream inside. Once, when Tom came carrying one, the teachers didn't panic as they normally would when they saw us carrying things we had found in the dragon, such as pills, knives, or spray cans. Instead of taking it away, they asked us to keep it safe, and then they made us promise not to say anything to our parents. We did as they told us. We kept this plastic bag safe, and we didn't tell our parents because we loved our teachers more than our parents. It startled us, this object. We sat in a circle staring at this thing for hours. The bags became the most precious findings in the dragon. What it was became clear to us a few years later. Most of us had turned into teenagers when the teachers taught us how to play with the apps instead of playing with sticks and stones. We called it the dating game, and the dragon was the allocated place for this game. The dragon was the most perfect place to hide. There's a lot more to be said, I know, but to get to the point, we understood after a couple of sessions that the custom was to leave the condoms inside the dragon. The mystery from our childhood was solved. We laughed, and I think we were even turned on by it. We whispered to each other and to the men we sat kneeling under, "Kids will find these. Small girls will touch these." The men moaned. The men always cried when they came. I loved it. I enjoyed feeling the men's tears on my neck, and I found their moaning to be very addictive. I remember how everything I knew fell apart the first time I felt the waves. When I learned I was an ocean. It was pleasure mixed with the outermost fear, feeling how wet my fingers turned when the inside of me fell out. Napkin Mary, as we called her, had always wanted to be part of our group. So when we started to play with the apps, she tried to impress on us by being the most active. The difference was that we had twins and rarely or never went alone to these sessions inside the dragon. I had my Betty, she was my twin, Colin had Tom, and Chris had Stacy. No one wanted to be Napkin Mary's twin. Well, Tom would sometimes go alone too, to a date. It's true, but he had always been quite mature for his age. Napkin Mary, on the other hand, it felt different with her. Something felt forced with the intensity of her dating. Maybe it was because she was late in puberty with her tiny breast, or maybe it was because we somehow knew that she just wanted to have friends. It might not have been good for her, but we called her Napkin Mary of a reason. She was always naughty and she snuffled all the time. And quite far up in age, she wore those silly kids' gloves with strings that attach the gloves to the jacket. I guess it was her mother's fault, because her mother was weird. The witch of St. Jacob's Street, we called her. She walked around collecting recyclable cans. Now I realize she was just poor, but for kids, you have to understand, no one is just poor. It's not a reason enough. For kids, money is a state of condition. It's too abstract to be reflected upon. For kids who have money, a kid that doesn't is just stupidity. I remember I saw Mary once in the Dragon. I don't know why I went there. Maybe I just passed it and wanted to see if someone I knew was there, or maybe I was looking for something I believe I had lost. I was entering through the mouth of the dragon when I heard a soft bounce and a sticky sound, as if someone was throwing clay on the wall. They couldn't see me from where I was standing. Napkin Mary was on her floor, and I remember so distinctively those gloves laying along the side of her, attached to her wrist with those strings. A briefcase was standing further up, and next to the case a man was holding Napkin Mary's head, patting it just like you pat a cat. Behind Mary, another briefcase with its accompanying man was standing. The sound was rhythmical. I didn't say anything, I just walked away, as if what I was there to do was done. Maybe I went home to go through my homeworks, or maybe I went to Betty or to Tom for a movie night. I can't remember. I just know I didn't talk to anyone about what I had seen. I didn't even take advantage of it. I just ignored it. And it surprises me because if someone would have taken advantage of it, it would have been me. I regret so much from the years in school, and I know that what happened later with Napkin Mary during her service year is not only my fault, but I feel ashamed. And I feel ashamed over feeling ashamed, because my shame doesn't matter. My grief and my pity is like pee on someone's grave. I was the one making up that mean nickname Napkin Mary, and I think actually I might have been the reason for why she was so forcefully excluded from our group. And I can't even remember why it was so important for me. And that bugs me so much. Part 2, Service Year. I'm not really close to any one of my old friends anymore. It was during the service year that our bond started to break. It came quite naturally, I think, because we were divided in different service groups. The groups were structured depending on the results of our exams and creativities. Both Chris and Colin came in the actorial group, but they had never really been close to each other. Stacy was heartbroken to split up with Chris. She came in the mediality group. And my poor Betty, she had never really been smart, came in the physio group. Surprisingly, I didn't grieve much splitting up with her, even though she is the closest I've ever been to experiencing real love. I came in the same group as Tom. At first, it was great, idyllic actually. If Betty was my love, Tom was my best friend. Everyone said we had such a potential that we would go far and get a top job after the service. We came in the prestigious verbals group. I think we were quite happy about it, but I doubt we knew to what extent this division would impact our future lives with. Last time I ran into Tom, for instance, he had become a man with a briefcase himself. We didn't talk much, we just exchanged some polite standard phrases, but it surprised me to see those golden red cufflinks with the sigil of the state on his arm. I guess it's because whenever I see him, I still see little Tom going alone to the dragon. But now I have to picture him as the man with the briefcase waiting inside the dragon for another little Tom to arrive. It is how it is, I know, but something with it makes me feel rather melancholic. It's hard to keep track of your memories. It's even harder to keep an eye on them, to be sure of which ones that are true and which ones that are just there because you wish them were there. The service year was exhausting, even for us in the verbal group. I don't know how it started. Maybe it was a joke between me and Tom or a game we played with two others in our group, but we decided to get our service leader turned on. So naturally, Tom and I decided to twin up. It would send the desirable signals and it would make it easier for us to get the service leader where we wanted him. And we succeeded. We had a few nice encounters with service leader. I even remember that we took him to the dragon one day. But after some time, the service leader wanted to go along with me. I saw the disappointment in Tom's face, and I felt that the right thing would be to politely refuse. But I didn't say anything. I just went with the leader. And since then, it was not the same between me and Tom. I don't believe he was angry because I had broken our friendship, but because I think he had started to get what the teachers in school had called emotions, and that he had started to get them towards the service leader. I doubt it was worth it because my relationship, or what you would call it, with the service leader didn't last long. He said I was not invested enough. I just thought he would be a good contact in my future life as a post-inaugurated grown-up. Ironically, in hindsight, it's clear that Tom would have been a much better contact. The good thing with dating a service leader was that I was allowed to go to bars, even after he had broken up with me. The bars was like a sneak peek on the outside world, the world I soon would be part of. I learned a lot about the functions of life, about men with briefcases, and foremost about the meanings, powers, and limitations of words. In the verbal group, we were so used to recite and invent words, to play and twist them, that we thought the whole world would be just like that. But it wasn't. For instance, just by saying yes, that is one word, 3 letters, I could make people do things they wouldn't have done otherwise. By saying maybe, that's one word, even if it's a compound of 2, I could make anyone insecure. By refusing someone my name, either by the word no or by more elaborate and elusive phrases, or simply by silence, I could make that person spend the whole night trying to figure it out. It was so simple. But then it all changed when I entered a quite dark period of my life. It was a few weeks after me and the service leader had broken up, and it was worse than ever between me and Tom. And I regretted a lot that I had fucked it all up. At this time, in the service year, we weren't allowed to have contact with the other groups, especially not the ones lowest in rank. So there was no way for me to talk or write to Betty for some kind of support. It was at this time then I heard the news, so it was at this time I heard the news. So I was already I will start over a little bit. But I've not alone in ranks, so there was no way for me to talk or write to Betty for some kind of support. So I was already quite troubled when I overheard a gossip-like conversation between 2 other girls in my group. They talked about a girl in the accept group that had killed herself by stuffing her whole mouth full of napkins and hanged herself in a pair of kids' gloves. I was shocked. Poor Napkin Mary. I felt there was no meaning to anything anymore. I felt so alone and so miserable, so guilty. And all of this made me experience words in another way, a deeper and truer way. I experienced their lack of meaning, their lack of power, how words are just chimera and lies. For instance, I whispered to men, please kill me, but they wouldn't kill me, they would just fuck me. I would shout, no, I mean it, kill me. They would just fuck me slightly harder. I couldn't understand it. What word, if not kill me, would make someone kill me? I searched for those words until I realized they were nowhere to be found. I saw that what I had believed to be the power of words was actually just the power of will. The solution to my wish to get killed is not more complicated than finding someone who wants to kill me. And if I would find someone who wants to kill me, they would kill me no matter my words, even if I would say, don't kill me. Happily, I didn't find anyone with that will, even though I did find a great many who loved beating me up. Maybe I didn't look for it enough. Maybe my wish to die was not genuine enough. But it passed. My wish dissolved as it always does in time. And ironically, I heard that the news about Napkin Mary's death had just been a rumor. There had been an accident, yes. She had tried to commit suicide, but of course the strings of the gloves had snapped. And now she had been sent to an asylum. I guess my reaction to the rumor had been quite exaggerated. I guess it was more about me and my shame than the actual destiny of Napkin Mary.